Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!
Hello friends. If you've clicked on this video, you're probably somebody who has just started playing Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. With the game's second anniversary upon us, you're not alone, and all of the goodies from the anniversary event should give you a better start to your Tacticus career than most. What is Tacticus? It's a free-to-play mobile game that allows you to use your favourite characters from the Warhammer 40,000 universe in a tactical, turn-based and hex-based combat system. Picking up any new game can be daunting and overwhelming, and it's difficult to understand the nuances immediately. I've been playing Tacticus for almost 2 years, and a big part of that is because the core gameplay is solid. You get to use your favourite characters frequently in fast-paced battles, but the game does not require you to be glued to your screen for hours at a time. You get to form guilds and interact with your guildmates to then engage in cooperative boss battles that remain sincere to the 40k source material. Today I'll give you some game advice about how to start your Tacticus career off. I'll talk about what to do for the first few days and weeks, and then transition to suggestions for the middle game. I'll also provide you with some top tips that I wish people had told me when I first started playing almost 2 years ago. The game starts off with a simple tutorial that walks you through how to fight in combat and upgrade your characters. You literally cannot stray off this beaten path until you've completed the tutorial and understood those basics. Character collection and roster progression form the foundation of the gameplay cycles. You can unlock characters through requisitions or through farming the relevant campaign and then progress those characters in one of two ways. You can either give them gear, again farmed through the campaign, to make each character stronger and more powerful. Or you can also give them ability badges to upgrade their unique character abilities. This allows each character to impact the battlefield in unique ways that reflect each character's origin and design. At some point, when the tutorial gives you a bit of autonomy to explore the game for yourself, you'll start to see lots of new game modes open up and options to explore on the home screen. On the bottom row, you can access the game shop, your roster screen, go to the Battles tab, or access your guild chat. The Battle tab is where things can potentially start to get a bit overwhelming at first. Generally speaking, up at the very top are campaigns. Campaigns are where the story-driven content of the game lives, with new campaigns slowly being added to the game. They are also the main way for you to farm gear that you can equip onto your characters and make them stronger. The game currently has 8 campaigns, each with a normal difficulty and an elite difficulty, where you get to use a single faction to fight an enemy. For example, the Eldari battle against the Thousand Suns in the Saimhan campaign. Each campaign requires a core team of 3 heroes from the faction in order to unlock the mode. In the aforementioned Saimhan campaign, Aethana, Eldrion and Calandus form your core trio. If you have any of the other permitted characters, either from the faction or the wider alliance, then they can accompany the original core team into battle. For the beginner, at least for the first few weeks of play, campaigns will be the mainstay and main focus of your progress. We'll come back to campaigns later on. The next thing on your screen as you scroll down is Arena. This is where you get to use your characters against AI-controlled enemy players in a 5 versus 5 battle to the death. When you start, there isn't much of a science to succeed here. There are 2 key things to bear in mind when you fight in this game mode. Number 1, the enemy will always rush down towards you to fight. Why is this important? Well, as the player, you will always be given the first turn in these arena battles. However, the maps are often too large to immediately engage the enemy. If you make the mistake of spending your first turn running forward, then you get caught in no man's land and put yourself at an immediate disadvantage by allowing the enemy to attack you first. The smarter move is simply to pass your first turn and return the favour by attacking your now stranded enemies. This will give you the leverage to punch up against much more difficult enemies in this game mode. Number 2, the enemy AI in this game like to target your summoned units. Don't ask me why, it's just part of their coding. So if you can create a lot of summons early in the fight, you can distract the enemy character's focus and you'll have an even easier time winning the battle. Arena is really important for the beginner because it's a huge source of rewards. However, if you remember rules 1 and 2, then it's pretty easy to win with whatever you have lying around, so you don't have to build characters specifically for this game mode. That leaves the 4 remaining modes on the battle screen. Onslaught and Salvage runs are both ticket-based modes that run on a timer, 16 hours and 12 hours respectively. These aren't particularly challenging modes and are generally considered means to farm more resources. Onslaught earns you character shards, orbs and badges, and Salvage runs gets you items and gold. Guild Raid and Guild War are fairly massive concepts and ideas, and I'll come back to these in the middle phase of the game. So where does that leave us? We have to circle back to the campaigns that we talked about at the beginning. There are 8 different faction campaigns in the game, and they can all be divided into one of 3 categories. To start off with, you have the basic campaign. For example, when you play the beginner tutorial, you're playing one of these basic campaigns. You use the Ultramarines to fight against the Necrons. Then you have the mirror campaign, which flips the basic campaign on its head. Continuing the previous example, the Indomitus mirror campaign asks you to use Necrons against the Ultramarines. Finally, you have the elite campaign. These are segments added on to both the basic and mirror campaigns with harder, more elite difficulty. Why does this matter? Well, it relates to how you farm gear and level characters up. The basic campaigns have the lowest drop rate for gear, the mirror campaigns have a slightly better drop rate, and the elite campaigns have the best drop rate overall. There is some minor nuance to this, but it's broadly always true. Whenever possible, you want to farm the most advanced campaign node to get the best return on your energy investment. Speaking of energy, this is probably the most important resource to you as you progress your roster, and it's worth going over some key points briefly. Energy naturally replenishes at a rate of 1 energy per 5 minutes. As long as you're spending this before you reach your cap, you'll get 288 energy per day. On top of that, the game lets you spend your first ad refresh every day to give yourself a further free 50 energy to spend. Any energy refreshes that you want to do beyond that will cost you Blackstone, which is the game's universal currency that can be earned either through playing or bought with cash. This has all been a fairly circuitous way of telling you that as a beginner player, you should focus on the campaigns initially. These will give you the foundation to progress and gear your mid and end game characters up. As a rule of thumb, taking all of the core 3 campaign characters to Silver 1 is what you need to get through the basic or mirror campaign, and then you'll need to take 1 or 2 to Gold 1 to get through the elite campaign. I don't want to be too prescriptive, and you're free to play the game as you want, but I generally wouldn't take these characters' abilities past level 17 initially. On this slide, I've listed the core 3 campaign characters required to unlock and battle through each campaign. Silver 1 is a good baseline investment, but the mistake is in over-investing, and I've therefore highlighted the characters that still have a good position or role in the middle or end game. I've also made some notes here about which character abilities you can put a little bit of extra resources into. You can feel fairly comfortable pushing these abilities as a priority, even as high as level 22 or 23 or so. It's difficult to say how long you should have played before you find yourself in the middle game period. A lot of it will depend on how much you're spending and the guild that you're in. Once you have 9 or 10 characters at Silver 1, you can consider yourself at this middle game stage. Now, your priorities shift slightly. We're still working on campaigns because this is the best way of progressing and gearing our characters up. Now, instead of having the 3 core campaign characters at Silver 1, the aim is to get one of the 3 to Gold. Usually, that's enough to start defeating the elite campaign missions, which give you the best rate of return on energy expenditure. I've highlighted on this slide which characters I would recommend taking to Gold 1 out of the base campaign trio. As your roster develops, you're probably in a place to start thinking about contributing a bit more to the guild modes, Guild Raid and Guild War. As a new player, the best strategy that you can employ is the multi-hit strategy. This entails using your multi-hit characters and then adding damage buffers to increase the overall damage that you deal. To illustrate this, we can use Bellator and Certus as examples. At Silver 1, Bellator does 511 damage and Certus does 2,808 damage. However, Bellator does 6 hits versus Certus's 1. Imagine if you can add a damage modifier, like 300 damage from Eldrion's passive. Now all of a sudden Bellator's damage far outscales Certus. There is a bit more math that happens to make things slightly more nuanced, but hopefully this example illustrates the value of multi-hit characters in the early stages of the game. Guild War is much harder to effectively plan for because it essentially asks you to use all of your characters in a PvP format. As a newer player, you simply won't have 50 characters geared up. I wouldn't stress about building specifically for this game mode, and your roster will just progress organically. Various special or timed events occur throughout the game cycle, which follows a 5-week rotation. I have briefly explained these on this slide. Quests, Tournament Arena, Hero Release events, and Legendary Release events indicate that there are several aspects of Tacticus for you to explore and enjoy as time goes on. The key message is not to feel discouraged if you cannot immediately participate in these modes. First, focus on understanding the basics, prepare your characters to progress through their campaigns, and then the game will open up to you. What about Requisitions? I would generally advocate for always opening these once you have 10 saved up, as you're guaranteed to get a full character unlock. However, bear in mind that it's not always a new character. The one thing to tell you that might not be immediately obvious is that not all characters are available in the Requisition pool. You generally add characters to the Requisition pool after defeating their boss node in campaigns, or if you've been able to gain character shards through other means. Just make sure to check that the character you want is in the pool before you start opening too many of these. Energy gain and mission farming will form the bulk of how you get gear and new resources. However, there is a raft of other places to gain additional resources. Doing daily missions, battle pass missions, and leveling up your account can also be other avenues to make progress. It's worth noting that leveling up your account also increases your maximum energy storage and improves the daily reward crate. Everyone is going to enjoy games in a different way, but I'll assume that if you've just picked up something new, you're not going to rush into spending huge amounts of money on it. In terms of value for money, I think that there are 2 repeatable offers that stand head and shoulders above the rest. The daily Blackstone offer is a monthly subscription that gives you 2,000 Blackstone, paid out over 30 days. Blackstone is the universal currency for the game and can be converted to basically anything you want. It's a good return and doesn't feel like you're breaking bank for the game. If you have a bit more to spend, then the paid track of the Battle Pass gets you a lot of extra resources, and the Battle Pass runs over 35 days. It's the best offer in terms of value. Paying for the premium track also gives you extra missions to complete, which speeds up your progress up the rewards ladder. There you go, a beginner's guide to the first few weeks in Tacticus and where your priorities should lie. I've given you some recommendations so that you can get the best start possible, but remember that at the end of the day, it's a game, so you should play it however you want. If there's an appetite for this type of beginners content, please let me know in the comments below. I have lots more advanced stuff on my channel for you to check out as well. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to support me in the work that I do, I'd love it if you could consider entering my referral code on screen. It earns you 100 Blackstone and supports me in the work that I do. It is single use though, so choose who you support carefully. I've even got a time-limited unique code on screen at the moment to celebrate me reaching the 11,000 subscriber milestone. Make sure to hit a like and subscribe so that we get to give away more codes in the future. Here is a list of codes that are currently valid in the game. You can enter these to get yourself some free stuff to begin your Tacticus journey. Some of them are joke codes, but it's still free stuff, so enjoy. Okay, bye for now.
Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi.